This is a case study of a young man named Michael. Michael is a 10th grade African American student who is bright but not too interested in school. He is well liked by his peers and generally follows school rules, but he has had referrals for skipping classes and being disruptive during class. Though he attends school every day, he seems to attend for social purposes only. When in class, Michael generally completes the bare minimum, just enough to pass the class. Though in 8th grade he excelled in math, he scored a level 3, he is barely passing geometry at this point. The math teacher assumes that he is lazy and incapable of performing any better and ignores Michael during class. On a particular day after lunch, Michael stormed into the math classroom unprepared and began socializing. When the teacher demanded loudly that he sit down and shut up from the other side of the room, Michael responded, "Don't nobody yell at me except my mama." The teacher affirmed that Michael was in his classroom and would do what he was told or he could get out. Michael left. He went back to the lunchroom and began to socialize with some of his friends. The teacher on administrative assignment recognized that Michael was not supposed to be in that lunch period and asked him to leave. Michael got loud and became argumentative, saying such things as, "Get out of my face," "You don't know me," "This is my lunch," "'cause my schedule got switched." When he was asked to produce a copy of his schedule, he told her that he didn't have it with him and that he didn't have to show her his schedule anyway because she ain't nobody. The teacher went to the school safety officer and asked him to remove Michael from the cafeteria. After 10 minutes, the SSO approached Michael and reached to grab his arm to escort him out. Michael drew his arm back and shouted, "Don't put your hands on me." A verbal altercation ensued between the SSO and Michael. A crowd gathered, and Michael was restrained and pinned to the floor, with everyone in the cafeteria watching.
Teen Empowerment is a youth-based organization located on Genesee and Arnett. And what we do there is basically brainstorm the systematic issues that hinder the youth in our communities and things like that.
So TE has been working alongside the Community Task Force for about 2 years now. Current and former youth organizers have done student focus groups to help eliminate or the school to prison pipeline. We've done sessions with about 400 students, and we stress the importance of youth voice and getting their voices out there to be heard.
What we wanted to emphasize is the fact that it's not just like we talking about it. Like, we did focus groups on it, and all of us at one point either did go or still do go to a Rochester City School District school. Some of us went to charter schools, and like some like myself, we graduated, but we still have like brothers, sisters, cousins. Some of us have kids that either are or will be going into the Rochester City School District. So this was a personal thing. That's why we took this as such a strong initiative.
Another statistic that we found out is that 88% of students were suspended for nonviolent offenses. That was 54,000 school days missed in one school year.
I think that, the objective and the idea is to allow an opportunity for all of us to be on one accord. So if we ask our students what our school climate is, that they're saying the exact same thing that we feel our school climate is as well. So.
Standing past the talking piece if you ever participated in the restorative circle.
Stand and sign a referral if you've ever had to suspend a student. Stand up, take a breath, and look into the distance if things happening in your life have ever impacted your grades or work.
Look into the distance.
Stand and hold your arms out to get scanned if your school regularly uses a metal detector or scanning device. Stand and put on a book bag if your own child attended or attends or attended a school where they regularly use a metal detector or scanning device. Stand up and pose for your yearbook photo if you had a variety of extracurricular clubs, sports, and or arts to choose from when you were in high school.
Stand and put a phone to your ear if you ever wish for better communication between school and home.
Now stand and pat your neighbor on the back if you have ideas that will positively impact school climate or how welcoming the school feels. Stand up and close the bars in on yourself if you know what the school to prison pipeline is.
The shock of knowing young people who have been arrested in school, I heard oh wow, because so many people stood up knowing that somebody had been arrested at school. So.
I like the honesty of the students who've been suspended. That's something you really don't want to be able to brag about, but they were honest enough to stand up and say, I've been suspended from school.
I sense that Michael is alienated by the system, right from the teacher all the way through the system. He didn't have to have a name. He really didn't have to have a name. I think at every level it was do as you're told or else this is what will happen. And I think that it's so partial and also just so impersonal. And it started right at the classroom level. I don't think the teacher had a rapport with the student at all, any relationship. And I think the system didn't create a form where a student can have a relationship. It's either you do as you're told or you're going to have a consequence, and that's it.
For us, as RCSD students, it's like do what I say is what we live by. It's like we spend more time in school than we do at home, and when we get to school, it's like a do what I say process before we even have the time to eat breakfast. So now it's like whether you were in a good mood or a bad mood, your mood automatically just adjusts to what the building makes you feel. So you could get off the bus, happy and, I'm gonna go to school, I'm gonna get a good education today, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do that. And now it's like, dang, I don't even want to be here no more. Before you can even make it to the cafeteria, they telling you to take your shoes off because your shoes probably got like metal or something on them, like take your jacket off, I want to search you, you gotta put your jacket in the scanner.
And it escalated to where he was restrained and pinned to the floor. Definitely, my heart went out to Michael. Had a knot in my gut. It's just like this should not be happening to children.
There's a sense of a feeling of injustice.
I think what needs to go along with assumptions is interpretations. And what happens here is people are assuming that Michael's this or that. And then from the teacher to the cafeteria person on assignment, they're interpreting his behavior as being just, they're judging it, basically. They're judging it to the point where Michael doesn't stand a chance here. It's going to be obvious, possibly, from my perspective. The consequence is going to be harsh at some point.
It makes me sad that he doesn't have someone in the building like, oh, I'm gonna go see Karen right now. I'm gonna go see Anne Marie. I'm gonna go see Tom. I'm just gonna take 5 minutes to get some ideas for maybe a better choice. Right, because who knows? Maybe he had a really crappy morning. Maybe really bad stuff happened and maybe he was, right? So like he needs some help coping and just kind of taking 5 minutes, breathe, get my act together and not make it worse.
He had a bad time coming to school on the bus.
Right, exactly.
That's how Rick de-escalates things so often. He asks, how you doing? How's your day going? Talk to me, and all of a sudden someone's not put in an accusatory, they're saying, tell me what's going on with you. I'm here I want to listen. I'm seeing you for who you are, and I know there's a story behind your behavior, and I'm here to listen to your story.
Like I said, I graduated early, and the reason why I graduated early was because my English 3 teacher, Mrs. Bianchi, she basically was like the progress that I made in school really didn't require me to have another year, and basically she set the pathway for me to graduate early. Like I had to do an English 4 independent study, so that was on me to do that, but she set the way and let me know everything that I needed to take, Regents-wise, class-wise, and in summer school. So and I always loved her class because I love words and I love reading and writing. So she just, I guess you could say like every moment with Miss Bianchi was a great moment.
When I had a problem with like these few girls, and I would talk to like my counselor and stuff about it, and like he would tell me like to not mind it because like they're not gonna help me like succeed anywhere. Like no one's gonna help me like get into college or walk across the stage and stuff. So like he taught me that like I don't really need friends to graduate or like to do my homework, get good grades.
Well, it seems very obvious to me that this new code was needed. From research that's been done and from activist groups, the correlation between what happens to kids who've been suspended in their latter life has been highly affected by what happens to them in school. So a new code needs to be created, and I think it serves so many constituencies: parents, teachers, administrators, and specifically, more importantly, the kids.
In that it's dysfunctional on various levels, and I think that's an impetus for reevaluating and starting something different.
And I think it's important that as educators, I feel like we're on the front line. I think it's a social justice issue, the school to prison pipeline, and it's of utmost importance. And it is, we need to look at our role in that and how, because we can be integral in how that plays out.
And I think too that our student population being dominated by children of color, they've been most affected by this prison pipeline. If you just look at the numbers of people who are in the criminal justice system, it's heavily weighted with people of color, and that process begins, unfortunately, being suspended in school.
And being treated like criminals, like it says. They're not being respected, not being listened to.
I graduated from high school 4 years ago, so, still not that long ago. And I saw, I didn't stand up when they said, if you know what prison to pipeline is, but the more we did these activities, I didn't know it as that phrase, but I've seen it firsthand.
The most dangerous kid in the school is that who has no connections with anybody, because you really have nothing to lose. You're not really connected to the school, the culture. You might just snap, and what's going to stop you from hurting somebody if you don't have somebody that you care about, somebody who cares about you?
The district is going to evolve. They're going to figure out somewhere along the line what works and what don't work, but if they continue to shut the students out of that equation as to answers for what's not working and what's working, they'll repeat what they already have right now, and that is low graduation rate.
We all are connected, and I feel like sometimes we don't realize like all of the commonalities and the similarities that we share with each other, and also like our goals are so similar. Like our love and care for the students that we are encountering is so similar, and I love seeing that and I love hearing that, because we have to care for our students as educators. And then talking to this young lady was extremely beneficial for me, because that last question about where she wants to be in 10 years, I thought it was amazing. She talked about like wanting to be a scientist, and I was like, "You ever thought about being an educator?" And she was like, "Yeah, I might want to teach. I might want to teach science as well." And I'm like, "That's the type of opportunities I want to have with my students, to encourage them to become educators and to go after their dreams, especially when they have a passion early. Tap into that passion and allow them to use it." So it was so beneficial.
We all just came together and created unity, and with that unity, we was able to that. It made me realize, the things that we need to actually see happening within our communities. We need to see more people coming together and building friendships and building unity and stuff like that. Because once you build it inside of communities, we can't have good communities and bad schools. These schools are inside of those communities. So with those schools being in these communities, we can all work together effectively to have a more vibrant community and school climate. If you have one of these two items in your hand, then you will pull out a principle. First you will read the principle out loud, then you will elaborate on it. Whoever lands with this will have to write it up on the board.
it going. Keep it going.
So it's just, I feel like it's just basically making like people want to be in school, like making people want to be in the classroom. You know, if we're constantly sitting down doing paperwork all day, who's gonna want to sit in there? Nobody. You got to do something that gets like interactive and like gets people going. Like, you know what I mean? And
Understanding the students you're working with.
exactly, and making it like so that it's not like it's constructive, but it's
So
it's
make
fun.
classrooms
It connects to their culture.
Exactly. 'Cause
Yeah.
that's stuff
If
that
you're not
people like
able-
to learn about.
Yeah. If you really can't make any connections to it, it's hard for you to really pick up what you're supposed to be learning.
Exactly. We understand that there's a lot of things like that come your way. And hot potato, that's basically what it is. You got the hot potato and you have to juggle around all these things, and we know it's a lot of pressure put on you guys, whether you be a parent or a staff, a teacher, or whatever. And we all know the old code of conduct was not helping with that. There was no communication from school to home. There was no communication at all. Half of us didn't even know what exactly the code of conduct was. So this new code of conduct is just a tool that's going to help us. This is going to help us create a better school climate. This is going to help us to communicate better. This is going to help us to be on one accord so that we can strive for the same thing.
So what the new code addresses are practices which can help limit student suspensions. The first one is a restorative practice. And if you turn your page, it says that it fosters a safe and supportive school climate. And so we're looking at some restorative practices so that our students can feel safe, so that they can feel supported, and so that school cultures and climates are more positive places to be.
Having the staff and the administrators go through a restorative justice PD, you know, have them recognize the things that they're doing is not very effective. If you've got incidents like this, and I'm quite sure this is not the only time this has happened to a student, you know, hopefully it is, but I'm care to speculate that maybe this is the modus operandi that takes place there. And so I think a school-wide PD about restorative practices would be something that can enlighten everybody. Our compatriots in other schools, and much larger schools, larger classes, many more problems. When you're in the belly of the beast, you can't see it.
This is really nothing new. This is how a lot of different indigenous cultures in Native America and in Africa have been having conversations to make decisions, to settle conflicts, to build community for thousands of years. We are now adapting it to our own educational needs. And it's really simple. That's what's so powerful about it. It's not too complex. Biggest rule is there's a talking piece, and it goes around in the circle. When you have the talking piece, you are invited to speak. And if you don't, you are invited to listen. And it allows for true absorption of what people are saying when you do it this way. Which is important, right? Especially if we're talking about school-based planning teamwork, that we really thoroughly understand each other's perspectives. But typically in circle practices, what's said in the circle stays in the circle, because the community that you're building with is you guys, not you guys and everybody else. The problem that you're solving is with you guys, not you guys and everybody else. So can we all agree to those terms of the circle? Awesome. Just as a little tip for when you use it in the classroom, it's quite all right if you have a student that's always passing it, because at the end of the day, they're still doing what? Listening. And maybe one day they'll feel comfortable enough to share their perspective on things. Maybe they won't, but they're still being edified and learning through the process.
I think the important thing about a school-based planning team is respecting everybody's opinions and making decisions for the school that are positive, that are for the children, and being able to work together as a team.
I think the purpose of a school-based planning team is to bring many voices to the table so you can have a representation of all the stakeholders within the school community, so their voices are heard to make decisions that are going to affect the entire community, not just one part of the school.
School and the community involved for one common cause, because without our community supporting the schools are at a disadvantage.
I heard you guys understand that, you know, school-based planning is about community togetherness. It's about all stakeholders, and it's about, I believe I heard you say, one team, one vision, something along those lines. And I didn't hear one thing that would disagree with anybody else, you know.
Going back to the mission and the vision and where we want to go, and I know being on the team for many years, sometimes we get a little sidetracked. So, that was that was one, and but just one more thing, that I like the idea of all the words, but also knowing that all of us can't be all of those things. Yeah. They're stealing your thing there. Girl, let me finish. No, you can finish. Go ahead, go. No, you finish. But that as a group and as a team, if we Go ahead.
No, I was going to say exactly what she was saying, that all of the words that we said make up a great team. But even on any team, any sports team, any business team, there's different characteristics that we are stronger in and some that we're weaker in. But because we're a team, we pick up each other.
Right.
So if we know that a person isn't organized, there's another person to kind of help that person be organized, and you step up. But together, collectively, that's what makes a great team.
Again, thank you guys for not just communicating what your thoughts were, but authentically hearing other people. That's exactly what I just saw, where you were able to not only just recall ideas other people said, but like who said them, and be able to kind of like connect them to what your own perspectives or feelings were, and even add, you know, new terms and new ideas to what was previously discussed. So it's awesome to see so much agreement. Not to say that, you know, because, you know, there still might be some disagreement that didn't get communicated, but to see that there is this much agreement, again, communicates a lot about the potential of the SBPT at 22. We talked about respecting people's perspectives. We talked about teamwork. We talked about, you know, understanding we have our own different things that we bring to the table. And that game kind of represents, there are going to be times where you're going head to head with different ideas, with different personalities. And there are times where that idea might be most fitting for the moment. And imagine if I lost her and I was like, forget Miss Johnson, and just wandered off and tried to, you know, beat somebody else, you know. And sometimes we do that, you know, with our words, with our ideas when it comes to building as a school community. So the things that we should be doing is, if there is a moment where we have an idea and somebody else has an idea, and that idea might make more sense for that particular context, is we accept, we appreciate the idea that was contributed, that was better for the context, and we, you know, parade that idea. And if that person who had a good idea came up against another person who had another good idea, but the other person, and there was no ego with this, right? You know, ego was put to the side, and if an idea was better, or if there was a circumstance where you just didn't come out on top with what you brought to the table, you put it to the side, and you championed the person that had it. And it didn't stay like tribal, right? I didn't just stay with Ms. Johnson, didn't just stay with Ms. Ortiz. Eventually, it became communal, right? Everybody was on the same page. And that's the reality of the work that we do. You know, it can be a battle sometimes to be on the same page as something, but it can work if you're being humble enough, if you're being supportive enough.
How could the situation have been de-escalated at that point? Or do you think it could have been?
I mean, realistically, the didn't seem like the cafeteria staff or the teacher on administrative leave didn't really respond to Michael, right? She asked him to produce the schedule. He said whatever he said, and then he said she ain't anybody. But then the school safety officer, and that's really when it went really bad, right? Mm-hmm. Where he kind of took him physically down, right? He restrained him and pinned him to the floor. So I think if the school safety officer did what Rick does, like communicated or talked to him prior to this putting your hands on him physical part, I don't necessarily think it would have ever escalated to that part. I mean, Michael now in front of his peers has a lack of dignity. He's like
Absolutely.
in this
He's
huge,
been
in this
emasculated.
shame
Yes, he's
situation.
been
Now he's
totally
embarrassed.
shamed.
He's, I mean,
Yep.
10th grade, you know, that's a big piece of things going on in his life. And
The
now,
biggest piece.
yeah, it's huge.
Social development,
I
that's
mean,
most
it's
important.
huge. So I think that if this SSO would just communicated or talked to him instead of went to go put his hand on him.
One of their very few, we are the people that will see the whole populace of a school in a day, because we are there at arrival, we are there at dismissal, we are there at lunch. So we are one of the few occupations in the district that has 100% contact with our students on a daily basis.
I had a couple of kids. They had a couple of issues. They would call on me to speak to this child. I felt straight, put them back in class. That program is no longer. But it doesn't stop me from being a mentor.
That's right.
To these kids.
Part of it goes back to what we said before, where these kids see us in the community. So when they see us in the community, when they see us in school, they identify themselves with us, and they see, they say, okay, this person is, you know, making money and now on the street. If I see them out in the street, but they're not living that type of lifestyle. And then we, you know, talk to the kids. There's things where I might say, okay, if, you know, school is something that's not for you, you know, coming out, you know, going to college, then look into getting a trade, get that experience. You know, get your CDL license, get your plumber's license, electrician license, some type of certification where if you're not having the education for your future, at least get the experience for your future. And when I say stuff like that, it's like a light bulb goes off.
A lot of us, we're not just safety officers. We're fathers, we're uncles, we're friends to them. I know that a lot of the kids that we have dealt with for years, when you build a relationship with the older kids, it kind of trickles down. So if the older kids, oh, Mr. Randall's cool, the younger kids look like at that. And then they follow up, and it's a continuous thing. But as we go to hospitals, and you know what I'm saying, on our own personal time, we go to the hospitals to see about them. We'll go to some of their family events if they invite us. We go to those things. And when they see that, they're just like, wow, he really cared about us. You know, and social media is a big thing. If you're at a family event with them and you're hugging them in a picture, other kids see that. And they're like, wow, Mr. Randall took time out to go see the kids. Miss Sandra took time out to go see the kids. Mr. Tyra took time out. I mean, these are, us as a whole group, we do these things. We go out, we support our children. You know, especially at graduation. This year's graduation, I dealt with kids from the 5th grade until they graduated. And when they see us there, I'm a big teddy bear. Everybody here in Kentucky, I cry with them at the graduation because I was proud of them. And us as parents ourselves, they see us as parents also. They come to us for those hugs. They come to us sometimes like, I know we messed up, but don't be upset with me, please, because give me another chance. And us as safety officers, we prove time and time again every day that we're there for our kids.
So what the new code addresses are practices which can help limit student suspensions. The first one is a restorative practice. It says that it fosters a safe and supportive school climate. And so we're looking at some restorative practices so that our students can feel safe, so that they can feel supported, and so that school cultures and climates are more positive places to be. There's also a discipline matrix which defines consistent progressive responses to inappropriate behavior. Of course, the philosophy is that student suspensions are limited and families are entitled to due process. The district will also add social emotional supports. However, a positive climate is everybody's job. It is not just a job of the city school district. And when I mean everybody's job, I mean from the principal to the teacher, to the custodian, to the school safety officer, everyone that is in contact with this child during the day, it is his or her responsibility to be positive and supportive of that student. And so finally, the Code of Conduct was developed through a collaborative process of community consideration. The community had extensive input into the development of the Code of Conduct. Focus groups were held, polls were taken, parent meetings were held, community meetings were held, because if the community did not buy into this Code of Conduct, then it would really be business as usual for the city school district. So the community has articulated a need for change within the city school district. So that's a level 1?
Yeah.
That's
or
what it
level
says.
2?
Well, it'd be either.
Okay, well, what would you do?
I think it would be a level 1.
I think it would be too.
Yeah.
Also, I guess I should say.
Level 1.
Also.
But at level 1, it says classroom support and student support team. It may be appropriate when a student has no prior incidents and interventions have not been put in place.
Yeah.
So is it level 1?
No, it's a 2.
It's 2?
Yeah, because he's done it before and he's been, had referrals for being disruptive and for skipping.